Hi, my name is Abby Ruggieri, and today I will be talking to you about the Mexican culture's perspective on death. I have previous knowledge on this subject from taking Spanish in grade school and high school. We would celebrate Dia de los Muertos and learn how the Mexican culture thinks of death. We would also get to sample some of the foods that they have, and we watched videos on the celebration. I was so excited to get the opportunity to learn more about it. I also went on a mission trip to Honduras, so getting to learn more about the culture I experienced is very exciting to me. On this slide, I will be talking about the Mexican culture's attitudes towards death. In this culture, they view death as a natural part of life. No one can escape death. They use skeletons or calavera to symbolize death because they want people to understand that underneath everyone's skin are bones and people will eventually die. Death is also represented through graffiti and ornaments throughout the town and in churches. In the Mexican culture, people like to view death with humor. They also symbolize death in a lot of poetries. They like to make the idea of death a little more light-hearted and try not to be sad about it. Not many people cry or mourn because this culture believes that this will disrupt the path of the deceased to return to the world during Dias de los Muertos. On this slide, I will be talking to you about what Dia de los Muertos actually is. It is celebrated during the Catholic All Saints and All Souls Day period. It starts on October 31st. On this day, the marketplaces have many decorations and things to help prepare for the following festival. On November 1st, Los Añuelitos are celebrated. These are children who have passed on. After that, on November 2nd, all adults who have passed on are celebrated. The living celebrate the deceased by practicing many traditions to honor them. This can include food, preparing altars, or cleaning or preparing cemeteries. It is a big party instead of something sad. I will touch more on the traditions in the following slides. Before we get started on traditions, I would like to give you a little more background information on Dias de los Muertos. It was started by Spanish priests who were trying to put an end to Aztec rituals. With them, they brought medieval traditions. Catholic feasts are also celebrated at the same time as Dias de los Muertos. I will talk a little more about those later on in the presentation. Dias de los Muertos is celebrated so that the deceased are not forgotten. In this culture's eyes, they believe that other cultures or religions forget about their deceased after giving them a funeral. They would like to never forget their loved ones and always carry out their traditions. On this slide, I will be talking to you about the cemeteries. Living loved ones go to the cemeteries to prepare for the deceased to return. Most people clean the graves by repairing crosses, pulling weeds, redecorating stones, and decorating with flowers. At night, a party begins and everyone joins together to remember their loved ones who have passed. In this picture, you can see the cemetery at night. You can see the tall candles that we've talked about, and you can see all the people surrounded to gather and celebrate the lives of their loved ones that have passed on. Here is another picture of a cemetery at night. In this slide, I will be talking to you about the food people have during Dias de los Muertos. To begin the feast, many people will set off firecrackers to tell the deceased that it is time to come and celebrate and eat with them. In some cultures, deceased loved ones will come back and eat with their living loved ones. The deceased have special meals that consist of sweets, bread, and other special food items that were placed on the altar, which could include their favorite meals. After the deceased have had a chance to eat, the living will eat what is left over. An important food item that is present at the celebration is pan de muerto, which means bread of the dead. This is made from sweet yeast batter. It can come in different shapes or sizes and be decorated depending on the region. These decorations could include a skull and crossbones. On this slide, I will be talking to you about the ofrenda or altar de muertos, which mean the altars. These altars can be placed in the homes or cemeteries. Altars hold offerings from the living loved ones to the deceased. Other items that can be found here are pictures of the deceased or sacred images, such as pictures of idolized figures. Food is also placed on the altar. A common food that is included in this is chicken mole. Another type of food that could be included would be the deceased loved one's favorite foods. Other things that can be found on the altar are items that were important to the deceased and candles. Seras, which mean candles, are very common. The number of candles present can vary from region to region because some believe the amount of candles represents the amount of deceased loved ones that are being welcomed home. On this slide, I will be talking to you about the marketplace and decorations. Decorations and items used during Dias de los Muertos are sold at the marketplace on October 31st, as I said before. Sugar skulls, small coffins made out of cardboard, tissue paper skeletons, and ornaments can also be found at the marketplace. An interesting item that can be found at the marketplace are sugar animals. These are animals that have maybe passed on that are made out of sugar. The living loved ones can put these at the cemetery and altars so that the pet can go on the journey with the other deceased loved ones. Tall candles for the cemetery and altars are sold at the market as well as yellow marigolds. These marigolds are commonly strung on a string so that the deceased have a guide to get back to the family home. Another interesting part of Dias de los Muertos is the makeup, face painting, and costumes that people dress up in. People do this to represent an expression of themselves, to represent a loved one, or to represent a sugar skull. Here's a video that helps you visualize what Dias de los Muertos actually is. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed.